Welcome back, Tribe. Have an article here sent by one of you guys. It says, has feminism and Hoeflation destroyed dating in the West? Let's get an explanation by Tyler Durden here. So this was apparently posted, super recent, January 1st. Welcome to the new year. It says, it's a problem in the Western world that's rarely discussed in the media beyond puff piece articles and glancing polls that avoid connecting the dots. I already nailed it with the first sentence. The precipitous decline of dating, committed relationships, and marriage, along with a flatline in population in the past couple of decades in the U.S., is treated as a novelty issue rather than a threat to the stability of civilization that it actually is. History shows that without the traditional family structure, numerous ugly societal consequences follow. Oh boy, we're starting off with heat. One could argue, though, that the situation is far worse than that. We may be heading into a future where families become a novelty, and may argue that the root cause is feminism and hyperinflated delusions of progressive women. In order to understand the problem, we have to look at the stats. More than 50% of American women are still childless by the age of 30. By 35, fertility goes into steep decline, with women having a 15% chance of becoming pregnant and a less than 5% chance of motherhood at age 40. Now, those are some stark statistics, and you have to actually co-inflate some other things that are happening too, like obesity affecting, 75% of Americans now? So imagine we're becoming more and more obese, more and more unhealthy, inactive, which is going to cause more and more unhealthy pregnancies. And this is just age in general. We're not putting in those other factors. And don't forget, we have to consider things like pokes, that we were forced to undergo, which is having adverse effects on fertility as well, because untested drugs or all the drugs we're being put on in general, or, the chemicals that are in our food and how that affects fertility, or the water, what's in our water. Yeah, there's a bunch of things here that's going to make those numbers be far worse. It says feminists argue, though, that this is the time in a woman's life that they should be building a career and having fun. Family life, they say, is an artificial prison created by the patriarchy in order to oppress the fair sex. Corporate media and Hollywood entertainment often reinforce this narrative and encourage unrealistic life goals. The propaganda has generated what many refer to as the female happiness paradox. Surveys show that increased power, job access, responsibility for women in society since the 1970s has also led to a diametrically opposed decline in overall happiness for those same women. The correlation suggests the exact opposite of what feminism originally promised, and that the ideology has been a net negative. Though some will argue that a general decline in economic conditions is the real cause, surveys show that women have suffered a far more pronounced drop in happiness compared to men, meaning men were already more acclimated to the struggles of the workday world and their roles as providers and protectors. Women were happy until they joined men in the trenches. For men, the reaction has been to back away from the dating scene and the double standards involved. Over 63% of men under the age of 30 are now single. That's up from 51% in 2019. The majority single men say this is by choice and that they're seeking to avoid relationships altogether. Why? The consensus appears to be that modern Western women cost too much money and cause too much trouble. Fear of the failed marriage is one aspect that has the younger generation of men on edge, with family courts still largely in favor of women in divorce settlements and child custody. This is one reason why marriage rates have declined by 60% since 1970. And that's just going to continue simply because of the double standards. So forget the difficulty of dating today, the hyperinflation, Hoeflation, whatever you want to call it, of getting a lower quality woman for a inflated price. It's like going to the dealership and they're telling you, because market factors, we need to adjust the price on this vehicle with a $50,000 markup. I was shopping for a truck like at the beginning of January last year when they were still marking vehicles up like crazy. And to buy a Toyota Tundra, one of the new ones, dealers all around were asking, $5,000 was considered reasonable as a markup. Other places were charging $25,000 over sticker simply because it's a market adjustment. So in the world that we live in today, we live in a market adjustment dating economy, where unfortunately, through social media, through the norms that are being distilled from the powers to be, right? The culture that's being socially engineered on us that tells women that they are strong, independent boss babes, their value is unquantifiable, the air they breathe is magic all around us. they're God's gift to earth, all this stuff. And the delusion spawned on them by one another in the comment section, telling them they're a boss babe, they're a queen, that they can be fat, they can be morbidly obese, that they're strong, chunky queens and deserve everything. And, you know, this whole Lizzo effect. And, you know, it's just a general delusion that's causing the Hoeflation. On top of the demands, I want a Mr. 50 Shades of Grey billionaire type with a sex dungeon, has caused the market to be untenable for any mere mortal. Any man. You have to be a Greek god with Jeff Bezos' pockets to just get a chubster today. That's the unfortunate part. Or at least that's what the chubsters are demanding. I mean, we haven't really, since the 70s, set realistic expectations on women whatsoever. They live in la la land. It'd be different and understandable if like a supermodel looking woman says, I need a man that's on this level, does this, that, and the other, because you understand she probably has those kinds of men all over her anyways. Yes, men understand intrinsically like, oh, beautiful woman, obviously she's going to get whatever she wants in life. Obviously she's getting the top tier of men. Obviously I can't compete. I'll shoot my shot, but I don't expect to get accepted by such a woman. We actually look up to beauty. We worship the female beauty, female goddesses. They're always made to be extremely beautiful. Enchanting men, sirens, etc., all that stuff. We've always celebrated a woman's beauty, but in the world that we live in today, we're celebrating all the ugly sides of women. All the negative, toxic, feminine aspects of that gender are being pushed on society today and normalized and lifted up to be seen as the strong points, when that's all the worst things, like deluding women into thinking that they should join a relationship with a man and he needs to grovel at her feet and serve her and be a basically spineless simp, and she doesn't have to bring anything to the table, provide no value whatsoever, and that's good enough. Like, that's what we're celebrating in society today, and they wonder why the marriage rates are falling apart. That's the dating side. Now, we're still in a 21st century society, modern technological culture that treats women through the lens of the law as if it's 1920. So when you go to court and you get a divorce or you're going to argue over child support, you're basically losing. There is a court bias for women, and you're getting absolutely destroyed. And now through multiple generations, we're finally with a treasure trove of experiences from previously married men that tells us, hey, don't get married. Hey, look out for this. Hey, it's not worth it in the West. Hey, I went overseas, found my feminine traditional wife, been happily married for decades. Hey, do this, do that. We're learning in real time from other men that now we're also engaging in social media, and the power of the message is spreading at a rapid rate. So we're at an influx here where women's delusion are at a max and men's knowledge has caught up. And then this is the inflection point that we're at right now, where the markets aren't matching up, the demand and the supply. We have a big issue here. There's no buyers. A lot of sellers, no buyers. However, the obstacles go well beyond divorce into a new culture of female entitlement. It says the word on the street is Hoeflation. The dramatic increase in cost for men today to maintain a relationship with a woman while the quality of women continues to go down. That is to say, it is an increase in female expectations versus what they bring to the table. Exactly. Being here in Eastern Europe and seeing what women are like, and, you know, there's still traditional women here, although it is rapidly modernizing in the capital for sure. But just seeing mom, grandma, aunts, you know, the older generation of women and what they bring to the table and what they currently do versus the young ones today that maybe all they have is puffed up lips, a BBL, or all they care about is how good they look in the mirror. Like, once you spot that difference right away, you see what could be versus what is, you're going to check out of the market for sure. And even, and this is what I've said before, the worst of the worst here is still better than the best of the best out there in the West. That's what's crazy, because a decent one here is head and shoulders above anything you'll find in the West. In other words, women of the past used to have something to offer beyond sexual companionship. From greater femininity, greater potential for motherhood, less combativeness and narcissism, as well as the superior ability to raise children and maintain a home. Such traits are highly attractive to men even after 60 years of widespread feminism, but are seen as non-existent amongst women under 30 in 2023. It should be noted that Hoeflation seems to be directly linked to progressive influences, and not all women fall in this category. Unfortunately, around 71% of young women identify with progressive beliefs, as opposed to young men who are only 53% progressive. It should be noted that progressive today means something a lot different than what it meant in the 1990s. Progressive now means woke, or extremist leftist cultism. A majority of American women have cast off their traditional roles in exchange for modern feminist ideals, while still expecting traditional roles for men. And that's the most infuriating part. It's not enough that you shed all your traditional gender norms, but when it comes to dating, to culture, to marriage, you expect me to behave exactly like my grandfather did. You want me to pick up the tab. You want me to build a house. You want me to pay for everything. You want me to provide and protect, but you don't want to do anything your grandma did. Interesting. Dating younger men complain. It is now more like a job interview with scrutiny of their finances, a primary topic. Beyond that, the online meat market isn't helping. Dating app research shows that 80% of Western women are all chasing after the 20% or less of men, with earning potential being the biggest factor next to physical attractiveness. Yeah, you're a walking wallet today. This is what I tell you. Most people are so superficial today, and this goes both ways. The young guys, they're looking at TNA. That's all that matters to them, TNA, and the other side of the aisle is looking at wallets and what kind of life you could facilitate for them. Can he take me on a boat? Can he buy me a Fendi bag? Can he do all this? Not your character, not your beliefs, not your traditions, not your life with your family and your relationships there. None of that matters. How does he treat his mother? How does he treat his father? Nope. Can he buy me a bag? That's about as deep as it goes. A recent viral trend in social media in which women made the list of restaurants that they would refuse to eat on a first date exemplifies the concept of Hoeflation. The Cheesecake Factory in particular was consistently mentioned as a red flag for, quote, cheap men. Spending up to $200 or more was presented as a bare minimum for a first date, and only 26% of women indicated they're willing to split the tab. Can you cook? Can you clean? Can you bake bread from scratch? Do you know how to cook at all from scratch? We're not talking about boxed dinners and microwavable lunches. Can you actually make me a meal? Because if you were presenting me traditional feminine qualities, and your Instagram was locked down tight or didn't exist at all, you're not showing your body, you're not doing any of the modern principles, then yeah, I would court you in a traditional manner. Sure, we could go on a traditional date for a traditional woman, but you're a modern woman, so you don't deserve traditional values. We're not courting. You're getting a coffee, you're getting a walk in the park, you're getting the bare minimum because you are the bare minimum traditional woman. So expect modern dating principles. We are going to share and split the bill. You don't want to share and split the bill? You want me to take care of everything? Well, I expect you to have those traditional values instead. And there's nothing wrong with demanding that. That's the real 50-50 here. They're wanting 100-0. They want you to put in all the effort, all the engagement, all the investment, and them to mooch off everything like leeches. What they're looking for is a parasitic relationship with a sorry excuse of a man, someone that's a husk, quote, simp. That's what they're looking for. Every woman is looking for her simp. They're not looking for men today. First dates used to be an opportunity for men and women to decide if there's a chance for compatibility. Now progressive women expect grand gestures of wealth and ambition, like Valentine's Day, but every day. What feminism has done essentially is hyper-exaggerate a woman's natural inclination to seek out more productive men, while also hyper-exaggerating their sense of self-worth and making them insufferable. Women who have nothing to offer have been inculcated with delusions of grandeur, so much so that the question, what do you bring to the table, is sneered at. I am the table, is their response. There's no cure for this level of narcissism except hitting rock bottom, which is an outcome that Western women and society as a whole are swiftly approaching. The problem is not as historically entrenched as one might think, with Gen Z being the biggest deviation with the worst prospects for relationships among all generations. Feminism has been an ever-present agenda, but Gen Z has been hit with the brunt of the fallout in the span of a single decade. We can hope, however, that as quickly as the cancer of gynocracy has spread, it might recede. If the greatest damage was done within 1 or 2 generations, maybe a cure can be applied in the next generation. And if you want to take on biological principles of the natural world, typically viruses that spread the fastest and are the most lethal die out the fastest as well. So the cure is around the corner. If this keeps spreading and accelerating, within a few generations, it should disappear. The most lethal viruses are the ones that are able to replicate for the slowest, longest time imaginable without completely destroying their host. So if marriage rates are tanking down to a novelty, if relationships are all but wiped out and turned into situationships, if intimacy is completely destroyed, that means this is spreading like wildfire and destroying all the traditional pillars of society that has built us up to this great nation, this great culture, this great civilization. So imagine, I think as quickly and as rapidly this has grown, it will also face a swift death if those principles hold from nature, which I think they do. Because something that grows this quickly is socially engineered. It's not an organic growth. It's not the direction humans would naturally take. This is being implanted in them. Then one of the comments here says, a decent, smart man is a gift from God. That is how I see my husband. Thank God every day for him. I am enriched by my marriage and my devotion to Christ. The two of us together make a strong team for God and for our family. Mutual respect and love is the basis. Happy New Year. Another one says, my wife and I, led by my wife, had a strategy that seems to have worked for our kids. Right from the start, enroll the kids in a private Christian school. We researched schools, then moved to the city with our top choice. Keep them far away from public schools and far away from the mentally ill libtards. 2, get healthily involved in the school and identify all the quality families. Establish relationships with these families and set up play dates so our young kids were making friends with the right quality kids. 3, enroll the kids in all kinds of sports and activities, but keep it within the Christian community, if possible, to prevent the woke from accessing our kids and messing with our kids' minds. 4, when the kids were older, make it an expectation that they'll go to the youth group activities at the local churches. Have the parents of their friends over for dinner regularly to make sure we understand who our kids are associating with. 5, academically sit around the dinner table and talk about world events, politics, history, morals, etc. Mock wokeism. They need to hear from us daily how stupid it all is because they won't hear that from the news or government. Be there to help with the questions, but put the expectation on their shoulders to solve their own problems. 6, encourage them to always take on challenges when everyone is too overwhelmed or intimidated. Encourage them to be leaders of clubs in the schools and to tutor others. Sign them up for mission trips overseas. Damn. 7, research and apply to the most conservative private colleges. Keep them in private Christian school right through their undergraduate program. The results so far, all 3 top academic and sports students, all 3 hyper motivated, no drugs, no booze, no sleeping around in their lives. All 3 very mature and reliable. My 2 boys have found wonderful traditional girls from rock solid families that share our views. And it looks like the 3 kids are going to end up as 2 medical doctors and a computer scientist, now going into his master's in comp sci. Couldn't be happier with the outcome and the choices they're making. But it took lots of work and involvement as parents. And that's the key here. Because if you send your kids to public school in the world today, chances are they're going to be indoctrinated woke clowns. It has happened where it's become a meme that you can see it before and after college, and the kid had a woke transformation and completely destroyed themselves from being indoctrinated in that facility. It's unfortunate, man, but college is no longer a place you go to freely think, discover yourself, and your place in the world. That's gone. Now you get taught an agenda. You don't get to challenge questions and norms anymore. You get indoctrinated, turned into a zealot for the cause. It's unfortunate what has become of some of our most highly respected institutions. So yeah, this is the kind of work that you got to put into your children today in the world to make sure that they become well-rounded, contributing members of society. How crazy is that? Although you could argue this is always what a parent was supposed to do, guide their children for the best outcome. It's good that somebody here, welfare bum, has laid down the groundwork of how he successfully nurtured his children into a successful position in society. Because we have the opposite end of the spectrum with libtard parents that just accept that dropping your kids off to school and letting the public school curriculum do all the work for you, all the parenting for you, is all that's needed. Oh, and then this is a good one too. Look, it says, the thing that is almost more disgusting about this situation is the gutless simp men who enable it by going along with it to protect their careers / avoid conflict, quote, get laid. As if any real man should want to have sex with a gynocentric woman. At some point, men need to start looking out for their own long-term quality of life and their sons' futures. And to hell with next week's job security. Difficult to do, but necessary. Mark my words, once the fallacy of gynocracy clears, real women will end up longing for men who once again behaved like real men. Many women already do. Tats and nose rings seem to be standard attire. And this is a good little thread here. It says, can you make a meal, clean a house, sew a button, help maintain a budget, support your man? If you're a woman and say no to this, you're a failure. So that's what this commenter says. And then one below it says, I agree, but the sad part is when you look at a lot of the younger men these days, they can't put a roof over their heads, change a tire, balance a household budget, lead a household, use any kind of handheld tool to do minor home maintenance. That's the reality of the situation. Pointing the finger at one side of the aisle, you also have to look in that mirror to self-reflect and see what the issues are on this side. Because you can meme up and you can clown on all the younger generations of men today because they don't know how to use a power tool. They've never built up a wall. They've never cemented anything, worked with wood, done any form of carpentry whatsoever, anything at all. Never took apart a radio and soldered it back together, none of that. But there's a difference. You see, masculinity is being actively attacked and subverted in society today. When the boys are becoming lost and they don't know how to do all these things, I understand the societal pressure that has put men in these positions. There is no more shop class. There is no more mentorships. There is no more Boy Scouts. It all got taken away to empower women. Meanwhile, the problem with women's movement today is that they've lost all their femininity. The problem with masculinity today is that it's actively being suppressed. So it's normal to expect boys to struggle with their image of themselves, with their place in the world, and their abilities to become men that provide and protect, because society is taking those things away from them actively, discouraging masculinity, encouraging femininity. But when you're a woman and you're given more today, that's that paradox. When you're given more today than your predecessors ever had, and yet you lack the basic fundamental feminine traits that men are looking for, or shun them completely, that is a personal choice you're making. Society has given you all the support in the world, and then some. And culture is actively pushing for you and your newfound empowerment. And what you've done with it is turn your back on the fundamental needs and traits men actively look for. Now, when a woman says, well, I need a real man that can do all this stuff, yeah, those real men are actively being suppressed by society today. Because look at it, just general culture. What do rappers look like? What do singers look like? What do movie stars look like in general? Compared to the 70s, 80s. Remember, they used to be action heroes. They used to look like Arnold. They used to look like Sylvester Stallone. They used to look like jacked, real men used to do things. We used to have TV shows of, I can't remember what it was called, but the father was a carpenter and he was like leading a household. He was everybody's dad growing up, essentially. That's what people remember him as. Now, if you look at what men are portrayed at in the media, is like guys in dresses, guys who paint their nails, guys who wear skinny jeans. And you see it reflecting in society today when there's like a shooting or a stabbing or something, a robbery. The guy's like throwing his woman in front and using her as a meat shield. He's running away. There is no protective instinct anymore. They're actively trying to breed this out of men. They're not actively suppressing feminine qualities today. So the gap is expected. And the difference is a lot of us men feel this and actively are looking for it in other men to use as examples because we don't have many anymore. That is why Andrew Tates are exploding on the world. That is why you have all these podcasts exploding on the world with alpha males explaining to men what it means to be a man, because we don't know what it means to be a man anymore in the world today. Yet on the other side of the aisle, women have a million examples of what it means to be a new woman in the modern world today and how you should behave and how you should act. And that's the disconnect. At least men are trying to be men. Women are just trying to be something entirely different, and it's not working.